Hi there, thanks for joining me today. I have a flip through of a little Christmas journal I recently completed. It was originally published in 1918, so it's, what does that make it? About 104 years old, I guess. And I've turned it into a little Christmas journal. It was a lot of fun to do. I've had this book for a few years, and every Christmas I was determined I was going to make it into a journal, and other books got in the way, and so this is the year that she fulfilled her destiny and became a Christmas journal. So let me tell you a little about her. My journals usually end up somehow with names, and for some reason, this little book I just kept calling her the little Holly girl, because there's a sweet little child on the front, a little girl out in the snow, holding a big bundle of holly and berries. But she's clearly a little Christmas girl with a red hat and a little red dress, and but it wasn't originally a Christmas story inside. It was a story of mythology. And so I left it so that you can tell. If you lift under here, the lace that I put on, it's called the Golden Apples, actually. And so I wanted you to still be able to see what its original life was before she became a Christmas journal, and how a book on mythology, a story of mythology, ended up with a Christmas cover. We'll never know. It was from a series of books, so I guess I've been told there's a possibility that this was the December issue, and that's how she would have ended up with a Christmas cover, even though the story inside was not about Christmas. So, let me tell you a little bit about the mathematics of her, and then we'll take a look inside. She is about not quite 5¼ inches wide, and not quite 7½ inches long. And her spine is, although that looks quite wide, from the inside she's about 1/2 inch wide. So when I took her original text block out, I was able to fit 3 signatures inside, and I did a hidden hollow back spine. And she, as far as I know, from the research I did online, she's from 1918, but there was nothing inside to indicate the actual year. So just so that you're aware of that, but all the sources that I went through indicated that this series of books came out approximately around 1918, and that's certainly what she seems to be. I restored the spine from the inside out. She didn't need a lot of work. It looks like she's going to have more fun as a Christmas journal than she did as a mythology book. I put a little eyelet down here at the bottom and put a little charm with a snowflake on it. And you'll see here that there's threads hanging down. I often do that, and if you're not a thread kind of person, you can just trim them off when you get her home, if this is your kind of journal. As I said, 3 signatures. She's not very big. She'd probably be well suited as a special memory book for Christmas. Perhaps a devotional book for one Christmas if someone prefers to write every day for their December to remember a particular year. This is sari silk that I put along the edge to match her little dress and cap and make her seem ready for the season. Now let me move these out of the way for now, but I will be sending these along with her to the new owner. It's some of the original pages. The paper was in such nice condition, and it's a little thicker than usual, and really, really excellent paper. And you're going to see I used a lot of it when I put her pages back in and made them into journal pages by covering up the print in interesting ways. And then there were 3 illustrations that were also in the book originally, but they weren't Christmassy stories, so I've left them out, but you can do as you wish with them, or perhaps if you are also a journal maker, you might want to use them somewhere else in a different journal. And I just put a little charm with a sleigh on it. This journal tends to have a childlike quality to it, an older childlike quality to it. So this bundle will go along with her to her new home. And I've just used a bit of ivory colored sari silk to tie around her. I have a feeling she will end up a little bit full by the time the new owner is finished with her, because there are only 44 pages in her. What I did was I put in a lot of tuck spots so that the new owner, if they wish to write an entry on a piece of paper and tuck it into their book, there'll be some nice tuck spots to use to put those papers in. I did my best not to over decorate her. I was having a lot of fun, I gotta tell you. But I really did my best to leave a lot of blank pages for the new owner so that it can be personalized. And you're going to find a nice balance of old ephemera, old pages and papers, and borrowed things, as I usually do. I usually will fussy cut out of books and such. You also may find a few of the new, this year's Tim Holtz line of ephemera and a little bit of Kathy Holden. So I did have a little bit of fun with that this year. So let's take a look inside, and you'll see in here, although she had really, really pretty end papers, I wanted to have fun. And I used this paper. It's the same front and back. And it was actually paper I saved when I was given some flowers as a gift. And I just loved them because it has wreaths of berries and Christmas greenery. And I just thought that someday that had to go into a Christmas journal, and this is the one that it went into. And again, you're going to see pockets here and there. This pocket I made from some Kathy Holden fabric that was gifted to me this year, and I just love it, with a little bit of sewing around the edge and a little bit of Tim Holtz here. Now, because the publisher didn't put the date of publication in it, I put it down here on a little label so that you'll know what year she came from. I put a fussy cut Father Christmas here, even though this is the original front page. The story was originally by Nathaniel Hawthorne. But I felt like the red ink that was originally on the page still gave a Christmassy feel, so I just wanted to camouflage it but still be able to put it back into the book. So I've covered up, the title was here, The Golden Apples, behind Father Christmas's tree, and then I used a seal. I have an antique seal press, and so I used a seal to be like either the glow from him, because St. Nicholas is a saint, or else perhaps I think there I saw a lantern in amongst all the toys and things that he's carrying on his way. And I used some tea-dyed cheesecloth to make it look like he's walking through the snow, almost like good King Wenceslas. And I made it into a pocket. So there's a little journaling card tucked in there. You can put this wherever you want and put something else inside there. Like I said, there's just lots of little places here and there where you can write your own entries on your own paper and tuck them in. So that'll be up to you. And again, all these papers were from the original book, and I just found ways to cover up the print and reuse the actual pages from the text block. Here's an upper tuck spot that I created from a book on Victorian Christmases, and I put a doily underneath, and then I fussy cut around just this edge to create an up tuck spot, and I put this antique postcard in there, and it actually is a genuine postcard. This isn't a reprint. There are a few reprints in here, but I did want to make sure that you knew that this one actually is real. It's an old postcard that obviously never got used. For this page, in order to cover up the little square that was printing, because this is what they all looked like, what I had to work from. I used a page out of a guest book, so it tips out, and I used some faux cellophane tape to make it look like the little owner fortified it, because maybe from flipping it out so much it was starting to get worn. But it's also a tuck spot on the side. And here's where I can tell you is an example of a reproduction of an antique postcard. So this is from a book that I found at one of my thrift stores. And this actually was a postcard from 1910. And they reprinted a whole bunch of them into a whole book. So I aged the back because it was pure white, and I figured if it was from 1910, it shouldn't be pure white anymore. But that makes for a nice journaling space, and again, it tucks back in there if you like, or you put it somewhere else and put your own thing in there. Now here I made a wide belly band to cover the printing that was on this side. And I used some tea-dyed paper, lacy tea-dyed paper that's so beautifully made by Wishes and Weeds. Nancy over at Wishes and Weeds does such a nice job on her lace tea-dyed paper. And this is fussy cut out of a book on the history of Santa Claus, and then a little bit of the Tim Holtz. And I just simply punched some edge to make it look pretty. But if you lift it and take a peek, you'll see that there is printing underneath. And then I just added a little blank page for you to write on for journaling. And it just fits back in there. A little tea-dyed paper here. This page is out of a Christmas book from a journal I made last year, and there were leftover pages. And the book that it was taken out of was from 1928. So I've written that down here. Just so that you know. But I wrote it in pencil, so if you don't want that there, you can erase it if you just use a gentle, soft eraser. But it was a children's book on Christmas poems and stories and plays. For this page out of the book, first of all, it was lovely paper to be able to glue and sew on. So that's why you're seeing lots of lace along the edges. I simply used another page out of the book and glued it down the other way. Added a little ink and punched the edge, and I think it looks pretty, and it creates a blank page for you to write on. And I did a little stamping down here. On this page, a similar thing, except with the lacy tea-dyed paper. And I just did a little bit of stamping at the top. If this isn't your thing, always remember this is an area where you could do some collaging with things that are special for you. That's the beauty of junk journals. Collaging always covers up things that you don't like that someone else did, and you make it your own. On this page, I used from an old pad of legal paper I found thrifting to cover up the print. If you look closely, you can still see the print through it. I like that kind of thing, so hopefully you do too. These pages were out of a magazine from the 50s called The Work Basket, and it was for housewives, for how they could make a little bit of extra money for their household budget by selling cards and such. So I fussy cut that out, glued it on around the edge, and a little bit of ephemera there. Here's some completely blank page. As I said, it took a lot of strength on my part to leave the blank pages alone, but I felt like I needed to. And this is one of the original end papers, and it's a cute little girl bundled up to go out into the winter and stay warm. So again, there's lots of room here to do with as you wish, and the back, of course, plenty of room for journaling there. Again, left this blank, but it is an original page out of the book. You'll be able to tell just simply by the beautiful creamy color and the nice weight of the paper. On this one, in order to cover up the print, I used some tea dyed from a tiny steno book and glued it down, but I just glued it so that it's a pocket on the side. And then this is just from a reproduction of a Sears Roebuck catalog, and I imagined that if it was a little girl's book, this is from the candy department, and maybe she was hoping that there'll be candy in her stocking on Christmas morning, so I tucked that in there. I can't leave pockets empty when I send out journals. This is a page out of the book. I just turned it sideways and put it back in. It was blank, and I used some Tim Holtz stickers to turn into tabs, and I like how that looks. Very simple. This is a page out of an old German church book, so it is in German, but I used my Google Translate, and it is the section of the book that talks about the Advent. So if you can read German, then you'll be better off than I was. This center page of this signature is just some leftover wrapping paper that I had from years ago, but I love it so much. And again, I really wanted to start playing with this, and I thought, no, I've got to leave it alone so that maybe the new person wants to put pockets or wants to create journaling space. Certainly there's lots to do on the back because it's nice and blank and a really nice brown color. And I just tore that with a natural tear rather than a tear ruler. Here's the other side of that page that I put in sideways. On this page, to cover up the print, I used a tiny little version of Away in a Manger that I tea-dyed and rough tore around the edge. Created a little tuck spot using two of the Tim Holtz ephemera. I glued them together and made a little tuck and added a little lace underneath. I think the lace is vintage. It's not antique, but I still made it look a little bit more rough and worn so that it really fit in well with the age of the actual book. Here, in order to provide more journaling space, which is here, and there's some little European robins on branches in the snow. This was actually out of another book, and I just happened to save it, and I decided this is the book it needed to go in. It said, "To Tom from Fred, Christmas 1913. Like, how special is that? So I had a little bit of fun with this, with some faux cellophane tape. This is a 1940s sticker out of an album that I found once on my explorations. So it's genuine, and she's obviously got something special for dessert that she's made. So I thought that was a fun thing to tuck in there along the Christmas theme. This page was created out of a ledger that I recently got when I went on a thrifting, antiquing, book hunting trip with some friends. And one of them found the book and she didn't want it, and I said, I'll take it. So I've left the original writing at the top, but if it's not for you, again, another good spot to do a bit of collaging, and then there's lots of room for journaling. But you'll see right here, it's from 1946, which is kind of cool. And the customer for this particular company was the Hudson's Bay Company. Up here, I always include a Two Nanas bookmark when I send a journal off to a new home. This is a scan of an actual bookmark that was in my great-great-great-grandmother's Bible. So I like using that at Christmas time as the backing for when I make Two Nanas bookmark. And the way that I glued this ledger page in, I created that part as a pocket. So you can put whatever you like in there. A little bit of tea-dyed steno paper to cover that page and turn it into a journaling page. Again, these are all pages that were originally in the book telling the story. On this side, I've used some more of the legal paper, and then this flips up. Let me stand up so I can make sure I'm showing you. This flips up to make more journaling space, and it just says Christmas, a little faux cellophane tape, and a little holly there. Some more tea-dyed paper that I left alone. This is out of a newer book that I have, but it's all stories. Dickens wrote quite a few Christmas stories. He didn't just do A Christmas Carol. So this is from one of Dickens' Christmas stories, and there's room for journaling here. This is from tea-dyed, from an old Christmas card list book that they used to be quite popular before computers were invented. A little envelope that I sewed right into the center of this signature. And I did had a little fun with some Tim Holtz and with an old tag that was from my own family Christmas stash that when I was sorting through to see what needed to be kept at the end of the year and what needed to go, I liked it and kept it. And then inside, I've put a tiny little vintage card that just fits in there perfectly. I did a little stenciling here, but where you see the lace tea dyeing, this again was done by Nancy over at Wishes and Weeds. And then I added a little Christmas stamp, 6-cent Christmas stamp, and it's got a little antique pram, and I presume it's a doll pram. And I just thought that was perfect for a little Christmas journal. On this side, I used a little section out of a 1950s newspaper called the Family Herald, and it just lists, it was from, I think, a late November edition, so it was listing some toys that you could purchase in lots. And the prices are just incredible because it's from the 1950s. And I made it into a tuck spot. And I put a little tag in there. This tag actually was on a gift given to me by my sister-in-law and my niece. So I recovered the back with some tea-dyed paper so that it can be a little journaling spot. And they know that I love these tags. They use them and purposefully save them for me, I swear. And so they always write on the back because they know I can work with the back and leave the front blank. And I aged it a little bit more, and I just tucked that in there. Just a little bit of wintry fabric. This is the same fabric I used to sew the text block together. And a little bit of from Tim Holtz in there. Some more blank space. Again, I used a page out of a a little binder that was tea dyed. You can faintly see the lines still there. These lines did not want to survive the tea bath, but they're just faint and you can see them. And then I did a little bit of pale stenciling. And there's a little gold bulldog clip. These are hard to find at thrift stores, but these ones I actually did find at thrift stores, these little gold ones. So that's, usually I have to buy those new, the tiny ones. But that package was unopened and I found it at my thrift store. I put a little bit of lace at the top just so that it looks fancy. And then you've got to, if you're going to put a bulldog clip in, you have to have something to clip. So I put in a vintage Christmas card that's got lots of room for journaling. This is one of those cards that they used to make where you could open it right up. And there's just plenty of room. And the original envelope. I don't know whether I recommend licking that. I don't know how old that glue is. So I just put that there. And again, I just covered the printing on this page, again, with another one of the original pages, flipped it over. It had a blank side on it, and I inked around it because I like the look of it. I like it to be evident that the page got reused and found a way to well, they weren't thinking environmentally back then. They were just making use of everything they could, weren't they? Which is kind of cool. And then this again is the original, one of the original end papers. And at the very end of the story, it actually said the "and." So I saved that, put it back in, and a little tiny ephemera of a little robin in her nest with some holly. I'm not so sure they'd be nesting in the winter time, but it makes for pretty pictures that the Victorians loved to do. Back here I made a tuck spot from, as I said, I had quite a bit of fun with a bit of Tim Holtz this year, which is unusual for me, but it was such a treat. And so that's actually a tuck spot, and I've used, this was from a piece of scrapbook paper that had patterns on it, so I cut it into a little journaling card. And then of course I put my signature and date down here, and that's our the little holly girl that once was golden apples and now is very much a Christmas journal. This book will be listed in my Etsy shop quite soon. I'm not exactly sure when. I was trying to work on Etsy this morning and their site was down. So my fingers are crossed that Etsy will get things going again. I will let you know in the comments here on this video and also over on my Instagram account in case you're interested when I can get this listed. If you wanted to go over and take a look and see if maybe this journal is for you. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this flip through, and I hope if you celebrate any kind of wonderful thing at this time of year that you are enjoying it with people you love. Take care, and we'll talk soon. Bye.